Thank you. Turn that down. All right. Well, hey, I'm glad you made it. We were talking about you.
I was outside listening.
Oh. I'm glad I didn't say anything bad, right? So,
I have selective hearing.
Yeah, most of us do, right? So, anyway, welcome to Saturday Night Live, Life Recovery Ministry. We are here to help you in your recovery in whatever lifey mess stuff you're in, because life is messy, right? Isn't that right, Travis?
Yes,
life
sir.
is messy, and I'm glad that you guys are here. And we're John's not here; he's usually the one taking care of the snacks and stuff. It looks like we got some stuff out there, and Sean's been helping out with some of the coffee and stuff. So, hey, if you want to complain about that, talk to that big guy sitting right there in that ball hat. I dare you. So, so anyway. And I want to welcome all that are on internet with us. We got 5 different platforms: YouTube, Facebook, and we got the Saturday Night Live platforms and the church's platform and my personal Facebook platform. So anyway, we're going to be talking about step 2 tonight. We come to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity, right? Yes, and so a lot of us are probably more. I don't know. This may be a little bold statement. You can correct me if I'm wrong. We're probably more familiar with living in insanity than living in sanity. Would you agree with that? I have no answers, but I also believe that all of us are. We have some insanity issues to some degree, all of us. It's just in degrees. So, and the idea here is to learn, and hopefully when we get to the stuff that I had to share, I've been studying a lot in the last month, 2, 3, 4 months on emotional dysregulation and learning how to regulate yourself or work on regulating yourself. And that's what a lot of this is, because things happen, okay? Sometimes we allow it, sometimes it just happens. You know what I mean? Life sneaks up behind you and slaps you. Anybody here had life do that?
Yeah.
It should be everybody in here, because it happens to all of us, right? And so life, some of that happens to us, and we are still responsible whether we did it or it was done to us. Isn't that the truth? Are we not responsible for our behaviors and our actions, whether we do it or if it was done to us?
More so now than back then.
You're going to have to explain that a little bit.
Well, back then I didn't really care what my reaction was, as long as I got what I wanted. I didn't care how they felt when I left, as long as I left.
Okay, all right. Well, I get that, but you always were, even though you didn't care or you weren't even aware of that. Is the way I would say.
That's something I'm learning here.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And hopefully, Tommy, we're all learning that.
Yeah.
Right? And to a degree that we're able to learn that stuff, helps us to better function in the world and interact with the world and people, because the world is people, right? And to the degree that we're able to do that, I really like what Victor Frankl said in particular. He says, between the stimulus, I think it was Victor Frankl, said between the stimulus and response, there's a gap. That gap is where you get to choose. And whether you realize it or not, you always make a choice, right? In that gap. Sometimes it goes by super, super quick because you go into reaction and instead of maybe being proactive. You understand the difference between reactive and proactive, right?
Yeah.
Proactive is you're making a choice on purpose. And some of you made choices on purpose, but they weren't very healthy choices. Kind of like what you just said a while ago. in your earlier years? What, am I incorrect?
No, you're right.
Okay, all right. I just need, you know.
You keep a good eye on me from a distance. I'm blaming myself over here.
I listen,
Yeah.
okay? Even my wife told me today that I was a good listener. So, and hi, Linda. I ought to say hi to her, so. Okay, so we're going to be talking about step 2, and this is the last week that we'll be talking about step 2, and I'm going to be talking about 6 simple ways to boost sanity in 5 minutes or less. And of course, our topic tonight is about hope in faith, okay? All right, so that everybody knows, because we got some new folks here, and welcome, I'm glad you're here. We're streaming live to, of course, to the internet. This is our camera. It's got a mic on it that's very sensitive. It picks up everything in the room. And so when you talk, and hopefully a little later, when you talk, it will pick up what you have to say. If you don't want to be on camera, then you don't want to come up here, because that shows what the camera shows, that picture right there, okay? And so, and we're going to be doing live mic, what do we call that? Open mic night, there you go. It's all in there. Sometimes it takes a while for it to come out. And so what we got is, when we do that, if you want to come up here, then you can do that. If you prefer not to be on camera, but you still like to share, which we'd like for you to, you could stay in your seat and share, as long as you speak out where everybody can hear you. How about that? Good deal? Before I go into the quotes and questions, I want to see if anybody had any prayer requests that you'd like for us to pray with you about. Anybody? Okay. All right. Well, how about if I lead us in prayer? Would that be all right? And I'm going to pray for all the things that you didn't mention that you wanted to mention. Okay. And for those that told me that they were going to be here, but they weren't able to be here, and those that are out there struggling, looking for recovery. Can we do that? And of course, all the other places of recovery. Father, we thank you for your grace, your love, and your mercy. Thank you for the folks that are here tonight. Thank you for the folks that are viewing online, and we're just believing for your very best. You're not locked into time and space. You're outside of time and outside of space, and we're not really quite sure how all that works. But we accept the fact that that is the way that it is. And tonight, we're coming to the place of asking for those requests that, though some of the folks here didn't want to bring up, because maybe it's personal or whatever, and we're just asking for your touch and help. And that's your desire, and we're just going to link our faith with theirs. And for those out in internet land, we're linking with your prayers of faith, believing for your touch. And we're believing for all those that are struggling in recovery. We want to have a place here that will help, but we want you to be able to lead those folks in place that they can find recovery, whether it's here in Joplin, the surrounding area, or in another state. And Lord, we're just believing for all the places of recovery to be touched and blessed. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, so thoughts, questions, and quotes. I usually go over that, and I have several that I've circled. We'll see how far we go. But I'm going to take a sip of tea before I get into that. Is that all right? I'm going to do it anyway, whether it is or not. And I think we are live, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. Because I've promised myself that I'm going to, I go on live, and then there's a part of my brain that's saying, well, is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Is it working? And so I'm distracted. Has anybody ever here been distracted before? And then I have to decide not to be distracted. Have you ever decided not to be distracted? How's that work out for you? It's a healthy choice, right? And we'll talk about some of that later on when I get to the 6 simple ways to boost your sanity. So here's some things I want to talk about. And of course, here at Saturday Night Live, what we put out, what I put out, what all of us put out, we want you to only take the best of it that connects with you and use it. Because not everything works for everybody. Because we're all unique. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And just because the recovery book says it, or just because Psychology Today is putting it down, or that Doug says it, or somebody else says it, we found it to be good, but we want you to connect with what you resonate with and take it, okay? Because there's going to be stuff that you don't resonate with, okay? That's fine. Does that make sense? All right, so here at Saturday Night Live, because life is messy, we're really focused on progress, not perfection. You know, a lot of systems are focused on perfection. You have to do it right. Well, I think we ought to do it, and do it in a messy way, to begin. I mean, it's better to begin in a messy way than wait to try to be perfect before you ever start. Would you agree with that? Because if you do, you'll never start. Or when something goes awry, then you give up. So do it messy, okay? Do it imperfectly. Make mistakes. No, we don't intentionally want to make mistakes, but when we make a mistake and we recognize it's a mistake, then what we have to do is recalibrate. How about that? Sound good? All right. So here's a comment that I picked up this week, and it was, your daily behaviors match your deepest beliefs. Your daily behaviors match your deepest belief. So whatever you really believe, that's how you, for the most part, you're going to function, your behaviors. Does that make sense? And if you don't like what you do, which even Apostle Paul said he didn't like everything that he did, right? Then we need to recognize them so that we can change them. Sound all right? Okay. And it's all about moving forward, progress, and not perfection. And we're working on trying to correct those things as we become aware. And we basically already hit that a couple of times already with what you had to say, Tommy. So let's see. Here was a good statement, and this is discomfort of growth is far better than discomfort of safety. Shall I read that again?
Yep.
Discomfort of growth is far better than the discomfort of safety. Because if we're growing, then that means we're moving into places that's unfamiliar to us. And if it's unfamiliar, then it's uncomfortable. And if it's uncomfortable, our amygdala says it's not safe. Does that make sense? And so if we want to grow, if we want to mature, if we want to develop, if we want to have a better life, then that means we have to make choices for growth. You don't have to. You can stay stuck in that downward spiraling stuff, sinking down to septic city, if you know what I mean. All right, let's go to the next one. Grief makes flashbacks better. Isn't that an interesting comment? Grief makes flashbacks better. You know, I've been reading this book by Pete Walker, and it's on complex PTSD from surviving to thriving, and I think this came from him, I believe, I'm not sure, because I'm doing three different books at the same time. And this quote is from Gerald Hurd, and he went on to say, well, let's back up and say, grieving makes flashbacks better. Gerald Hurd said, pain is excessive energy crying out for release. And so, also another statement that this Pete Walker's talked about is he's talked about emotional flashbacks. Anybody here familiar with that term?
Yes.
Yeah.
You.
And with this complex or childhood PTSD says that that usually comes on, you know, when in childhood between early ages and up to 9 to 11 years old. And he was talking about that folks are more susceptible, as I recall, to having this emotional flashbacks, is that you feel all the emotions, but you don't have any pictures or cognitive understanding what's created that. So a lot of times folks feel like they're really having a break mentally because they just don't have anything to tie it to. But that doesn't mean it's not real. And that it also can last for a long time. It can last, even that he even said, for weeks. So, anyway. But grieving, that's mourning or grieving out the process of things, helps these flashbacks. Maybe we'll talk more about that later. An old Chinese proverb says this: joy shared is joy doubled. I've heard that one for a long time, and went on, and then it goes on to say, sorrow shared is sorrow halved. And that's one of the things that we do here at Saturday night, is to give people an opportunity to share their joy and their sorrow, to help, and that we can hold space for your joys and hold space for your sorrows. How's that? Any questions on any of that so far?
The compartment.
All right.
Like that thing they taught me in EMDR, in the chest, to put stuff in.
Yes.
That's beneficial for something like that, I think.
You may want to talk about that sometime. I found an interesting statement from C.S. Lewis. Anybody familiar with C.S. Lewis? He's a religious philosopher, wrote several different books. One is The Lion and the Wardrobe, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the Scar Tape, something, huh?
Scar Tape Diaries, man.
Yeah, Scar Tape Diaries. Anyway, he said this. He said, we are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be. Any comments on that? You think that's a factual statement?
Yes.
I think if it's according to God's will, it won't be painful at all. Follow His will, not yours.
The screw tape letters.
Screw tape letters.
His work.
Well, I'm just thinking about all the prophets and the apostles. Do what?
I said, if you do it according to His will, His way, He will give you comfort and peace through whatever.
I absolutely agree with that, but the problem is not even Jesus hit those marks like that in the Garden of Gethsemane. I mean, and the problem is because we got to get we got to get ourselves adjusted and lined up with like what you said. And if we do, then yeah, it is. But when we don't, then we're, do what?
But even Jesus, when he took the cross, was in alignment with the Father's will, and he gave him comfort through it.
He did, but in the garden, he didn't want to do it. Let this cup pass from me. Yeah. And so, and which is a human natural response that we all process through, even Jesus. And so that's, so what's going on. And what this statement by C.S. Lewis means to me is that, we believe that he's out for our best, but to get me in position of being my best is kind of what we're talking about here. We wonder how painful it's going to be. So what kind of adjustments do I have to really to be in alignment to be able to receive his best? Does that make sense? Hi, Zach. Okay, let's go ahead and hit a couple more. Excuses. It says, excuses are the lies your fear has sold you. Let's do one more. This is interesting. It says victims' love for entertainment. Victims love entertainment. Leaders and heroes love education. A different kind of mindset. I thought that was interesting. And of course, everyone is welcome here at Saturday Night Live, and we want to help you in whatever we can do to assist you in that process that's healthy. We want to try to do that. So we're glad you're here. And so now we're going to read the 12 steps, and Willie's going to come and read the 12 steps.
Step 1, we admitted that we were powerless and our problems in our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact natures of our own. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defaults of character. 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, we made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory and we were wrong, promptly admit it. 11, we sought through prayer, meditation, to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. 12, having a spiritual awakening of these results and these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all our affairs.
Thank you, Willie.
Hi, Zach. How are you? Hi, Linda. And hi, the other Linda. Nice to see you guys tonight. They're running away.
They won't stay until they saw you get up there.
Well, I was gonna ask them a joke, but now they're leaving, so it'd be kind of weird because it kind of goes with leaving. I'll save it for next time.
Okay.
I know you do. I know you do. I wouldn't leave if it wasn't important sometimes too.
Thanks for your help, John.
You know?
I'll see you next Saturday.
Okay? Bring Travis with you.
No, Travis, everyone follows Travis. Travis goes where he wants to go. That's right.
That's pretty good.
And I'll be here.
Okay, good deal.
We're going to another NA meeting now.
I guess that's a good thing when you say look out for yourself, you know? No one follows me around. I don't like people following me around either. I'd rather know who was with me and talk to them, you know? I'm kind of by my side. Whatever, I'm gonna get with this. Did I say hi to the Lindas? Yeah, I did. Okay. It's hope and faith. Bible's Hebrews 11, 1 through 10. I'm using the Bible I usually read tonight, the NASB. Now faith is the certainty of things hoped for, a proof of things not seen. For by it the people of old gained approval. By faith we understand that the world has been created by the word of God, so that what it sees has not been made out of things that are visible. By faith Abel offered to God a better sacrifice than Cain, through which he was attested to be righteous, God testifying about his gifts, and through faith, though he is dead, he still speaks. By faith Enoch was taken up so that he would not see death, and he was not found because God took him up. For before he was taken up, he was attested to have been pleasing to God. And without faith it is impossible to please him. For the one who comes to God must believe that he exists, and that he proves to be one with rewards those who seek him. This light's bugging me. Making my phone change colors too. Where was I, Doug? Things not seen yet. And without faith it is impossible to please him. For the one who comes to God must believe that he exists, and that he proves to be one who rewards those who seek him. By faith, Noah, being warned by God about things not yet seen, in reverence prepared an ark for the salvation of his household, by which he commanded the world and became an heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. By faith Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place which he was to receive for an inheritance, and he left, not knowing where he was going. By faith he lived as a stranger in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs of the same promise. For he was looking for the city which has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. By faith even Sarah herself received ability to conceive, even beyond the proper time of life, since she considered him faithful who had promised. I was trying to figure out which one of those controllers makes these lights stay on one thing, because my phone reacts to the light and changes every time. But that's a lot right there. Okay. Okay, hope and faith. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 2 is often referred to as the hope step, in coming to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. We will remember that it was like what it was like to live sanely and have the faith to hope that sanity can return. Faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurances about things we cannot see. Hebrews 11:1. How can we be confident that something we want is going to happen, especially if all of our hopes have been dashed? How can we risk believing that the life we hope for is waiting for us around the bend? The Bible tells us that the key is in nature of the higher power we look to. We are told that anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him. Hebrews 11:6. If we see God as one who is reaching out to help us, we will be more eager to look for him. In our faith, if our faith has not matured to that point yet, we can ask for help. One man came to Jesus asking him to help his young son who was afflicted by a demon. He said, "Jesus, have mercy on us and help us if you can." "What do you mean, if I can?" Jesus asked. "Anything is possible if a person believes." The father instantly cried out, "I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief." Mark 9:22-24. We can start by asking God to help us have more faith. Then we can ask him for the courage to hope for a better future. Please, a better future. These are the questions. I didn't answer them like one at a time. I just read them and then went from there. I am becoming able to believe that God can help me live sanely. How? Can I believe that as I reach out for God's strength and surrender to him, God's nature is to be present and ready to help and support sane choices? Why or why not? I wrote this the other day. When I was younger, my interpretation of who God was and is was not properly defined due to the lack of proper adult supervision and influence as I grew up, being active in addiction from an extremely young age. And when God was explained to me by people and the Bible as a paternal figure, I was confused because of the lack of human parental influence in my life, because I ran anytime I could to my addictions. After many years, I finally began to understand, as I still do more often now than in the past, what the truth is, that God is our Father. As my mental health grows and I learn and sanity becomes more of a normal thing, other than being weird to me when I had glimpses of sanity growing up, then I would stumble off into the darkness time after time, not knowing where to turn. For many years wanting to know God, but not really understanding how to, if that makes any sense at all. It does to me, because I at times still struggle with making the right choices, because the flesh just wants to say, "Let Tommy handle it." This is when my heart says, "No, Tommy, if you just hand it to God, you will have victory without regret for allowing God to work other than handling it yourself." Then it blows up into a huge mess. I have to say this now in life. I see the subtle ways God shows me he is real and ready to guide me in my life, in the little things and the big things and everything in between, as they play out, because God can't stop and he won't stop. And then having free will to make choices, sane or insane, making sane choices, life flows much smoother than walking on the dark side. Having personality disorders, causing conflicts that lead to active addiction. God has guided me out of darkness to a place of sanity. that I believe only through God, His Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit is attainable, because my way without God only leads to possibly becoming permanently insane, filled by no recovering from my addiction, living in darkness, and being a threat to myself, those that love me, and those that don't. I don't want that to ever happen in my life again, and I pray that if I ever do return to addiction in my life, that the stuff I learn in recovery speaks louder than the drug, and I get away from my old ways before it becomes too late. Thank you.
One of the things that you touched on and that I've got here on my notes is how much is sanity worth?
It's priceless.
Okay, and how much is sanity worth? How much is it worth? Here you go. How much is it worth to have a minute of sanity?
In the middle of a storm? A whole lot. It means a lot.
And
I mean, it's a glimpse that it's going to get better, but like me, I'd have glimpses of sanity, but I'll still want to raise hell.
and so, but if we can grasp that we have a minute of sanity,
Yeah.
then maybe we can have 2 minutes.
So like the situation I went through recently where I was just, my insane side of my brain got activated, and I had to learn to behave while my insanity was telling me to say this and that and act this way and that way. I didn't think I'd have to go through something like that in life. I thought I was in a good position where something wouldn't happen like that. And I had a couple of glimpses of sanity, like multiple, throughout that time, and like I'm better today. And you asked me, and I said it's priceless, is because I don't ever want to feel like I did a few weeks ago. But we have to go through that stuff sometimes.
And do you know why?
I feel stronger today.
You do? Well, because I believe, and from what I understand, is that we're having to work out these things, and we're having to recalibrate our choices. And hopefully they're healthy, sane choices instead of insane, unhealthy choices.
So this is kind of weird. People who play video games might know this. It's like sometimes your controller gets out of calibration and you gotta recalibrate it so it'll aim right when you play your Call of Duty, Yeah.
And some other notes that I had along that line is that then we must remember that we need to feel what it's like. Yeah, we need to remember what it felt like to be insane. We need to feel like what it's like to be sane.
Here's something I learned in this last few weeks. It's okay that my insanity was speaking louder, but it wasn't acting out. My wheels were turning, but I wasn't letting it control me like a puppet.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so, and I went on to say that we need to be aware of what it feels like. We need to know what it feels like in our brain. We need to know what it feels like in our heart. We need to know what it feels like in our body, because all 3 of those can feel differently,
Yeah.
and even in our soul.
Yep.
What do you think?
I was thinking of how your brain releases chemicals when you go through stuff like that, or your body does. That reminded me of that, because you're mentioning all the different aspects of a human, It's a weird place to be, but you can get out of there if you just, I don't know, I kind of thought it's like windsurfing. Or surfing, you can't let the wave crash down on you. And if it does, you gotta know how to get back to shore.
That's good. That's good.
Thanks. That was for you, Linda. Oh.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
No. I don't. Do you guys?
Zach said he has a thought.
it's always wise if you can, sometimes afterward or whatever, try to think about what led up to that event or that insane time. Cause I think that we don't really, I think that we struggle to be willing to acknowledge the external, pressures that we have. And you can get in recovery and you can get really healthy. And then something happens and that hadn't happened before, hadn't happened for a long time. And it can kind of sideline you.
Yeah.
It's like playing football and you get tackled really, really hard, and you've gotten really good at running and no one's tackled you for a while,
Makes
and
sense.
so, things happen, life happens, and we can get hit and kind of, like I watched, I think it was Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas, they had a
Yeah.
fight, and, Buster was nobody really, and he knocked Mike down. And Mike wasn't knocked out, he was just sitting on the mat, because he had never been there before, or had been a long time.
Yeah.
Years and years and years. And so he's just looking around, the ref's counting, and everybody's yelling for him to get up, and he's just trying to figure out where he's at. Now, he got up, and he won the fight, like, the next few seconds, but he wasn't hurt. He just hadn't been there in a while. And so I think that we can really easily say, okay, well, I haven't done as much work as I thought I did, or I don't have as much progress as I thought I had. And it's not the case, you're just in a different place. And you got hit, and maybe you hadn't been hit in a long time, or maybe this is something they hadn't experienced before. And it takes you a minute to figure out where you're at.
Yeah.
And it's important to not let that run away with you, like what you're talking about.
It's hard to.
It's hard. It's hard to just let it be, because all those worries and fears that you're gonna go back to the way things used to, but you gotta remember you're not the same person you used to be.
True. I think I had this thought, it was when I was going through this time, like it was almost similar to last year. Seems like this is the time of the year, test on me. No, but I was noticing that I was more aware of like the things around me that would annoy me, that I normally don't pay attention to. It's like I felt like an ATM machine for negativity being soaked up, I don't know if that makes sense, but I wasn't trying to dispense it from myself, And then I found that I had to get angry, but it was what I did with my anger is what I think counted. So I didn't go out and hurt nobody or harm nobody, or I tried my best, and I allowed myself to get angry by myself in a safe place, away from where the problem was. And I was able to come back and be, better.
We're always gonna have these little tornadoes that come by.
Yeah.
And for a lot of my life, I had to jump in, I feel like I had to jump in the tornado to fix it.
Yeah.
Or to calm it down or whatever. And it feels better to jump in the tornado, because when you don't, and it's all spinning all around you, it's a little scary. Your insides are shaking, everything's going on.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot to not jump in that tornado.
Yeah.
But you don't have to jump in it. And you gotta remember who you are, not who you
Yeah.
were.
It's true.
And we gotta really be careful that we don't be hard on ourselves. Because it's really, our natural response is to turn on ourselves and turn inward like we didn't do something right.
Yeah.
And like my mom died in September, and I thought I knew how it was gonna go, and it didn't quite go that way. And there's just a ton of changes, just up and down. It's things that I never imagined, and I didn't relapse.
Yeah.
I didn't hurt nobody. I really wanted to,
Well, you were hurting somebody, you're hurting yourself.
Well, I mean, I didn't,
It happens,
look, I was okay, I didn't make
Yeah.
any choices, you know, but I mean, I wanted to, you know.
Like you tell me, you're my friend, be nice to yourself. You know, that's something real to me. Now I get it. It makes sense, and it'll probably make more sense in the future, but it's been like something that goes around, like I'm my friend, you know?
We have to work on that, it's hard.
Yeah.
We get mad, we get mad at anybody who wrongs us or crosses us, and we're the biggest asshole to us that there ever walked the planet.
Yeah.
You know, but boy, you run out sending me or look at me cross-eyed. You looking at me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what along that is, jumping into tornado, is we get a burst of endorphins.
Yeah.
That, put us into a euphoric or potential euphoric state.
You want something I learned in therapy in the last couple of years? It was about jumping in the tornadoes or hot messes situations, you know? That it was when those chemicals were released, endorphins, that we figured out with me, it was almost like a meth high.
Yeah.
And that's why I enjoyed jumping in just shitty situations constantly,
Right?
because I would get like a meth high.
Get that adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in my therapy, like a couple years ago, I remember I was in the middle of the mess, you know, but I didn't make the mess. But I went to therapy, and that's when they asked me, you know, what do you feel like? And I said, I feel like I'm on drugs. I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating. You know, like I constantly want to stay awake and watch all the drama. And here I am today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I accept that.
Better and better.
Can we go sit down? Wait, you was raising your hand, sir.
Hey, Tommy.
Hi.
How you been?
Good.
I was, before I came up here, I was listening to Caleb radio. They was talking about the situation in Ukraine, you know, and, if that's not just a totally insane, out of control situation that nobody has any control over, then that is the most insane thing going on the planet right now. And, there was a group of people who had a lot of hope and faith, and they were telling them to go to, the fallout shelters, bomb shelters, and instead they went into this open field by this rock, and they was kneeling down praying to God to intercede for them in prayer. Now that's hope and faith.
Yeah.
In the same situation.
It's definitely.
And I pray that God answers their prayers. That's a tornado.
Yeah.
It says in the Bible there would be wars and rumors of wars, so it's gotta happen.
Well, thank you, Tommy. Appreciate it.
I'm just gonna stand up here for like 20 minutes and just stare at you, everybody.
Rick, it's your,
No, I'm just kidding.
it's
Come on
your
up.
go, Tommy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
He's gonna fill in all the gaps.
I don't know what I could say to follow up anything that's already been gone over, but I always like to read these earmarks on this. So I guess that's what I'll do tonight.
All right.
Kind of piggyback on what Tommy just did, so. Since some phases of our recovery may be very painful, we may feel that we are being punished for our failures. We may assume that bad things are happening to us because we're bad. And we may even begin to believe that God doesn't love us. It may hurt when God disciplines us. But this in itself displays His love for us. The Bible says, my child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline. For the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one he accepts as his child. As you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own children. Who ever heard of a child who was never disciplined by its father? God's discipline is always good for us, so that we might share in his holiness. No discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. It is painful, but afterwards there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. Back up here. It is God's will for us to win the race of life. The robe of our reoccurring sins need to be laid aside. There will be pain for those exertions, but we are told to pace ourselves and to bear the pain with patience. And remember, others who have run the same race and finished well and are cheering us on. And I'd like to just read Hebrews 12, 1 through 4. It's all to do with faith. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so clearly trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he endures the cross, disregarding his shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility he endured from sinful people. You won't become weary and give up. After all, you have not yet given your lives in your struggle against sin. That's about all I got.
Well, what do you, what you've shared here, and talking about, working through, making that turn, working through the process, messing up, but then being able to begin again. One of the things that Tommy wrote down here is, how can we have confidence that something that we want to happen will happen, and especially when our hopes get dashed. And so, can you speak to that? Well, how do you handle when your hopes get dashed?
How do I handle when my hopes get dashed? Well, I mean, in the past, I haven't handled it good. I mean, that's usually what I went out and used or what have you, but I mean, I haven't always handled it like that.
Okay.
I mean, there are instances where when my hopes was dashed, that I tend to put more faith in God to believe that he is going to get me through the storm, the tornado as Zach was talking about.
Yes. And how have you been able to hold on to that when you've gone through the tornadoes or storms that you've had, or you've not made those choices, the healthy choices?
Right.
How are you able to turn it around?
How was I able to?
How are you able to turn it around?
Just by my belief that God is real, and sometimes, I have to be still and know that he is God. And nothing stays the same. Everything changes. Everything in this life will change, either for the good or for the bad, but it's going to change. I just have to have the faith and belief that is gonna change for the good. You know, if I don't have that, then I'm gonna be in a bottle of booze.
Right. And see, and that's what this one statement here is when, how do you have the confidence to, for something when, especially when you've lost your hope and you're in the bottle of booze, how about that?
Well, you know, I've seen God at work in I've had God at work in my life. I've been aware of God's presence in my life. And, I guess that keeps me confident because I know what my life can be like if I put my faith and my hope in God. Because I've seen it. And, I've seen what it could be like with him, and I've seen what it can be like if I turn my back on him. So that, you know, that right there keeps me confident that, you know, I'm standing here tonight and I'm feeling very confident. And hey, you know, even though I failed before, that don't mean that I'm a failure.
Right.
I'm confident that God is still living within me. And that I can be restored to sanity.
Okay. Can you talk to the internet folks out there? Do you have a message for them about being able to have this confidence after you had
Like a relapse?
or whatever?
Yeah.
I was trying to be careful about how I said that.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, for me, and, there's quite a few people probably out there in internet land that knows me and knows that, you know, over the years I've had my struggles. It's no secret. But I've had good runs of sobriety, and I did that by putting my faith in God. And I know, just like I just said to Doug, I know that it can be done because I've seen it done in my life. You know, I've always wanted to grab the wheel and drive the car when I shouldn't be doing that. I should, you know, God is my pilot. I'm just a co-pilot. I'm along for the ride. I have confidence in my God and myself that, hey, you know, just because I've failed before in the past, don't mean I'm gonna fall this time. I have to keep hold of that hope. The day that I lose hope, that'll be the day that I'm doomed. So I keep that hope and that faith alive in my life.
Excellent. Good to hear.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any comments from anybody on step 2, what we've talked about, what Tommy's talked about, what Rick's talked about, what Zach's talked about, what I've talked about? Anybody, comments? No, okay, all right. Okay, we're gonna have, open mic time, and if you'd like to share, we'd like for you to do that. Remember, we want it to be around 3 to 5 minutes, something like that, and we're ready to do it. Anybody would like to share? You can come up here or you can stay there, whichever you prefer. I'll start over here.
Okay.
Yes?
Can we just go around the room, and if we don't want to, say skip?
Yeah?
Get out of my face. Mic was all, put my bubble there, I was like, hey dude. I was just looking at pictures on my phone. I like taking pictures and stuff, but something relaxing to do. I can put the pictures on my computer and mess with the way they look and draw on them. So it helps with like something to do instead of going out and getting in the middle of a storm and doing drugs or being around the wrong people and stuff. Something I've learned is to have things to do to keep me occupied. And then I've learned also that doing them too much is not healthy either. And then I have to stop myself. Because it's like
Right?
that addictive part of my brain's taking over, and I don't want to obsess on stuff so much because then I'm just kind of trapped in that same way of thinking I've been learning. So I need like downtime, like nothing time. Like my friend knocks on my door and sometimes it takes me 5 minutes to answer it, you know, because I'm in my downtime. And it's helpful. If I was just looking at all my pictures that happened, you know, someone sent me a picture of some art they made, and I made a new picture out of it, you know. Just having something just to distract myself from all the crazy that's just around me. Life is crazy. There's a lot of crazy. There's a lot of weird and strange, and you know, we're surrounded by people that aren't Christians and are Christians and are other religions and other faiths, and you know, I never noticed that stuff when I was on drugs because I didn't pay attention to what was going on in the world outside the drug world much. I think it's beautiful.
And what you're doing is tapping into some of your creative forces, which is
Yeah.
God-given.
Yeah. I'm glad I have a few friends that inspire me, you know. And I've gone around my house yesterday looking at some of the things. I'm like, oh, I do have the material to do that project or make that thing. Well, I could use that to do that, and you know, I think that's a very comfortable, beautiful place to actually get to. Where you actually just don't destroy everything, get rid of everything, and everything's a mess, and you know, now I know why I had this, I'm gonna use that for this project or something, you know? It's healthy. That's all I got.
All right.
I mean, I can keep talking, but I don't know what to say.
You have anything you'd like to share? Lawrence, anything you'd like to share?
I've had a lot of struggles in my life. I've lost a brother, a sister, mother, father, grandparents. But lost my freedom. I've lost everything I've owned, and I've come out of prison with nothing but the clothes on my back. And I've had my struggles with drugs and alcohols, and I've been up and I've been down. But one thing I know is God is good, and all the time He's good.
Yes.
And He's good to forgive me. He's good to have mercy on me. He's good to give me grace. And he makes a way for me. You know, as long as I'm not angry with Him, which I have been in the past, which caused me a lot of problems, but you know, His grace is sufficient. It's enough. His forgiveness is always there. No matter how many times I turn away and I fall, He just picks me up and dusts me off and says, "Get up, son. You can do it." He loves me. No matter how mad I get, He tells us to forgive our brothers and sisters, you know. So He's always good to forgive us.
That's right.
And you know, when we accept His forgiveness and we repent from our ways and start having a revival with them again. And we get down on our knees and we say, hey, I give you my life, you know, and he'll reward you. He's brought me up a long ways from where I was. And he tells me that I ain't seen nothing yet. He tells me I got good things for you. So I keep my trust in him, my hope and my faith in him. And I give him my life, which I can't say I did that before. Doesn't mean I'm not gonna make mistakes. But I know I can go to the altar, or I can go out in the field, and I can ask him to forgive me. And he'll pick me up, dust me off, and say, I got you. So, I love the Lord and he loves me. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Appreciate that, Lawrence.
Thank you.
And I was looking at some of the comments on Facebook. One was asking where we were located, and we're located at 423 Main Street, but we have the alley entrance. We have a sign there that has this type of emblem on it, and you come where it's kind of like a standing sign, come in the alley, and we're downstairs, there are signs pointing to us. You hear us in the alley because we got a speaker in the alley so that, you know, if you have to smoke, you're able to hear what's going on even in the meeting. That's what Tommy was saying a while ago. He was outside when we were talking about it, if you were in that part of the meeting. But anyway, I was talking about it to the folks out there, and so.
You just telling Linda.
Yeah, I told Linda, or whoever's watching. But anyway, that's where we're at 423 Main, in the alley entrance. We're down in the basement, and we'd love for you to come on here. And we had others that said they're sorry for not being able to be here, they're not feeling well. We're just gonna believe for their healing and for their health also. So anybody else would like to, so come on. I skipped you, did you wanna say anything?
Were you gonna say something?
No,
You might say something in a minute here.
I might say something better. All right.
Did you wanna say anything?
So you didn't tell the whole story up there a minute ago,
Why is that?
because you left out the part about all the people you've helped.
Yeah, I guess I did do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it matters.
It does matter. I think that you know, they got a saying in AA, you only keep what you got by giving it away. And that's not only true in AA, it's true in faith-based, it's true in life. That's very true. And I enjoy helping
And you've been helping people for a long time, years and years and years,
since 2007.
whether you're sober or you're not.
Right.
And you've led people to the Lord in this room and in other rooms.
Right.
You've played music, you've given of yourself and your gift, and you've written songs that have brought people to Christ.
Right.
You've done a lot.
Yeah, I guess, you know, and that's one of God's rewards. I actually had a man see me walking one day, and I was in the middle of a relapse, but he stopped and he said, "Rick, is that you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh no, you don't remember me." He said, "But it was because of you that I got me a good job. I got a house to live in and a wife and 2 kids now." And he said, "It was all because I heard something that you said to me." So, I mean, that's one of God's little rewards.
Yeah.
That's not being high on myself, that's the reward and by him saying that, I got out of my relapse, because I thought about what he said. So,
And I had to do this because you wouldn't do it.
But it's your
Are you sick? Okay. Huh? Okay. Well, I'm doing that. I was sick for 3 months. Not today.
I'm popping my head up, that's the reason I'm running up the stairs.
All right.
Make it more holy.
What's
I
that?
just wanna make
Shaking
sure.
it up?
Probably follow that, ain't it?
Yeah. Okay, well, anybody get anything out of tonight so far? Should. Some good stuff. All right. I have about 14 minutes here, so I'm gonna touch these real quickly. These 6 simple ways to boost your sanity in 5 minutes or less. If you're interested. Anybody interested? Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's.
5 minutes or less?
In 5.
Thank you. I was hoping I was counting.
I don't know. I could probably. Is this a test?
Could be.
No,
I'm not gonna tell you.
It's come back over me sometimes.
Okay. All right. Well, they have a page and a half introduction on the 6 things. So but sometimes we create habits in our life that are unhealthy and they're not beneficial. Okay, do you know what I'm talking about? Habits that are not beneficial?
I don't have any clue about what you're talking about.
You don't have a clue? Was that a sarcastic statement? Okay, all right. And so oftentimes, the truth of it is, oftentimes it's unawares that we set traps for us and of toxic habits that come back to bite us in certain areas of our body. You know what I'm talking about?
Or on purpose.
Oh.
You go, how'd that happen?
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. Yes, sir.
I was told one time to hold your breath and count to 10. Is that one of the 6?
Yeah.
We're helping you do this in 5
Yeah, that's going to help. And so anyway, what we need to do is we need to recognize that we need to think about what we're thinking about. And let me just go ahead and go right into the 6 without going into all the dialogue here. And this lady, this psychologist, she calls these mindful breaks, okay? Mindful breaks to help you to basically a break or a hack, a mind break. And here are the 6. First one is when you wake up with gratitude. You need to turn your attention to what you are grateful for. Okay, not what you should be grateful for, but what you truly are grateful for. Now, maybe the first thing that you're grateful for is waking up, right? Maybe you're, whatever you're grateful for, that you should recognize what you're grateful for, because what that does, that alters our brain chemistry in a positive way to start how you want to see the world. How do you want to see the world? You want to see it from a harsh, negative, judgmental, angry, bitter, resentful, or revengeful, or do you want to see the world in a different way? You get to choose. And whatever you think works out best for you. All right. So the first step was when we wake up, we need to wake up with gratitude, and that when we catch ourselves in a negative mindset, which we understand that you don't ever get there, but that you are kind to yourself, treat yourself like somebody that you love and that you care about, that's valuable, that's important, and that treat yourself like you would treat a valued friend. Yeah, I was going back to your earlier comment. And so I was looking at the time. And so that we can, when we recognize that we have fallen off the negative cliff, that we recognize what's happened, and then we turn it around. And gratitude helps you in so many positive ways, mentally, emotionally, health-wise. It is a very beneficial action. That can start to boost your sanity. Right there, number one. Got it? Number two is meditate for 5 minutes in the morning. All right, meditate is basically, we're talking about thinking, praying, meditating. What you can use an app, you can use a program to help you in meditation. But the purpose here is to not let your yesterday's mindset drive your brain and your heart and your spirit today. Okay? In other words, decide where you want to go instead of where you went yesterday that you're upset about. All right? So you construct through meditation a mental, emotional, spiritual roadmap where you want to go. In other words, you get to choose what you want in your life. We should do it wisely. Okay? This will boost your sanity. And see what this does, this takes you out of the chaotic tornado that we was talking about, or the wave, or the disorder, the overwhelm, and because then we're starting, because when we go into that chaos, when we go into that overwhelm, our amygdala shuts down our forebrain and we can't think. Then all we are then, we're reacting in our survival mode, in our basis instinct, which is all those things I mentioned a while ago. Do you, right? Our base instincts. Because they're our survival instincts, and they're good to keep us from dying. But the fact of it is, if we continue to live in that baser realm of life, is that going to get us to thriving? Okay, and that means we have to move ourselves from insanity to sanity. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying if you don't purposely, intentionally decide to do it, then it won't get done. Would you agree with that statement? Is that a true statement? Okay. All right. So 5 minutes is not too much, right? Right? 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. You think when you're thinking about going somewhere, you at least think about how you're going to get there normally, right? Unless you've done it so often, you don't even have to think about it, which that happens, right? And then when the train's there or the road's blocked, then you have to think, oh, well, what am I going to do now? So anyway, let's go on. So number 3, move your body. This is a strategy, okay? This is a research strategy. Yeah, strategy. Strategy. There you go. Strategy. There you go. Thank you for that help. And that we have to. I messed myself up on even more of my thoughts. We're moving our body because, see, according to Tal Ben Shahar, Dr. Tal Ben Shahar, he was the one that started the helped move the science of happiness genre that was going on. His research showed that exercise, or she's talking here about just moving your body, actually helps you and is more effective because it releases endorphins, it offsets the stress hormones, and you actually feel better, you do better, it helps you more than Prozac, according to him. Okay, all right. And in fact, there was a research done where they had people that had a placebo, they took Prozac, and they did some other methods like exercise and some healthy things. And the bottom line was that the mindful, grateful, practicing people actually did better longer than the people that took Prozac, because they did okay for a while, but then they relapsed. Okay, so that's not my research, that's their research. Okay, so 4 minutes. And so
You got some really long minutes, dude.
yeah, I've got 4 minutes left. So, and so the idea here is to get your heart pumping, okay? Get that moving, and so that when, if you have 5 minutes, according to what she cites as research shows that just a few minutes of movement is mood enhancing and calming. Okay, all right. Number 4, disengage from your media. Well, we already know this, right? And that's screens and that's news. That information is vital, but the fact of it is, we can overdo it, right? And a lot of that causes anxiety, which can affect our sanity and push us more into the insanity realm. Hello? Would you agree with that? Doesn't matter if you agree with it or not, it's still the truth, right? So, all right, number 5, step out of the autopilot. I think Rick mentioned this a while ago. Well, he's talking about wanting to be the pilots, but we need to step out of the autopilot and steady ourselves. Oftentimes we run. God has created us to create habits so that we don't have to think about everything, that we can do that, which is really great if they're healthy habits. But if they're unhealthy habits, then we're being ran by that autopilot that's unhealthy. Does that make sense? So we're saying here, number 5, to boost your sanity, is you need to recognize that maybe you need to step out and steady yourself on purpose. Okay? And it goes on to say that there is a 5 sense technique that helps you to focus on the present moment instead of worrying about the future. Okay? Here's the technique. I'll say it real quickly. I got 2 minutes. We got 5 things to see. We got 4 things to hear. We got 3 things to feel. We got 2 things to smell. And we got 1 thing to taste. So if you can do those 5 things, 5 to see, look around and see some things, see that, look around and listen. Take a second and listen to what you're hearing. You can, if you really focus on your hearing, you'll hear different noises that are in this room right here. 3 things that you can feel, different textures, that uses a different tactile method that we have here, technique that can help you focus on something other than what's spinning around inside your head. 2 things that you smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. You probably right now have a taste in your mouth. Okay? And if you're thinking about the taste in your mouth, you're not worrying about your future. And if you're doing that, you're starting to ground yourself and help yourself to be more sane. That would boost your sanity. Do you see that? Number 5, don't forget to play. She talks about playing. Says what you love to do as a child, what you always wanted to try. Look back at some of those things. And as I reviewed this thing right here, I remember I used to I had a motorcycle when I was 14 and 15 in Galena. That was a long time ago. It was illegal to be doing it, but everybody did, and that was including me. But I remember certain areas that was out in the country, that was down a valley, that was cool and shady and quiet. And there was only 1 farm down in that area. And I enjoyed riding down there. It's been probably 50 some years since I've done that or more. But I was visiting it today in my brain. And I could feel it. And that helped me. So that was enjoyable. I call that some playtime. So, comments? Hey, I'm right there on the time.
I got one.
Okay.
I was waiting for you to ask that question patiently, and I almost missed it.
You did, you almost.
Yeah, you were saying in these steps to, what's it called? Success or gratitude? Attitude of gratitude step, what was it?
Well, these were the 6 six simple steps, I'm looking for it, 6 simple ways to boost your sanity in 5 minutes or less.
I got a new one, I'm on like day 6 of it.
Okay?
Like, sometimes I have to remind myself, but before like when I get up, 2 of the times I remember to do it, and I danced as I got out of bed, and I danced as I went in the bathroom. And if I forget, I'll dance as I go to the kitchen.
And
if I
that was
don't-
one of their suggestions in play.
And if I don't do it at any time, like training my brain, so when I walk down my hallway to go out my door, I dance down the hallway.
All right.
And and then I've noticed the other day, I danced when I came out the hall and out my door, but I danced all the way down the hallway. And then I realized I was on camera, and I got kind of embarrassed. And then so I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it again, eventually.
All right, sounds good.
And it does, it really, because I know there's gonna be things thrown at me as I continue on my journey of the day.
And that regulates you, okay? That orders you. And not everything works for everybody, but we find things that help us, okay? And giving a few minutes in the morning to these 6 things to kind of guide your day, to help you and maybe clear up your thinking just a little bit.
You know what I noticed it helps with? It's like, usually I got my day plan, and on certain days I know what's gonna happen, and I know how they're gonna go for the most part. And so I noticed when I started these things I'm trying to do to kind of lighten my load in my mind, as I move forward to go do my normal thing that I have to do during the day, I'm not plowing everybody out of my way.
Dr. Andrew Huberman suggests that you look at sunlight for 10 to 15 minutes a day in the morning, and that you also stretch your vision to the horizon, because that relaxes your brain.
That's another thing I do also. As a matter of fact, when Jamie come out, or Jesse come out, and I says, move over. You're looking, you're out, hold on, it's gonna go away in a second.
Okay, anybody else? May the Lord bless you and keep you. See how long I pause on that? May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace, and make healthy choices.